Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Professor Sheila Hollins, this evening's moderator, and for 8 years I was the chair of the Scientific Advisory Board of the Centre for Child Protection. Today's event validates years and years of work by the Centre for Child Protection to establish a permanent institute of anthropology within the Pontifical Gregorian University, an institute for interdisciplinary academic study and evidence-based practice with the fundamental aim of helping to make the world a safer place for children and adults who are in vulnerable situations. There's a global call for accountability and transparency, but this will only come through truly understanding why these both matter. We're going to begin this evening by hearing from some of the Centre for Child Protection's alumni about how they are taking their learning to the four corners of the world. We hope that they will be the leaders, the critical voices that are needed to advocate for those children and adults whose safety is still being overlooked, whose trauma is ignored or covered up. Let's hear from the alumni by video.
Taiwan,
Germany,
India, Argentina,
South Korea,
the United States of America,
Madagascar,
Nigeria,
El Salvador,
Perú,
Tanzania,
Slovak Republic,
the Philippines,
México,
Zimbabue.
Mi principal meta y objetivo al regresar a mi país es ser un pequeño granito de arena para realizar un cambio.
Mi principal aprendizaje durante este tiempo del diplomado ha sido una apertura muy grande del horizonte sobre los abusos sexuales.
It's not about a cosmetic change, but we really have to change the culture in the church if we want to protect the minors.
Esta riqueza me ha llevado también a tener un horizonte en el campo evangélico.
My intention is to be able to share what I learned to safeguarding officers in the Asia-Pacific region.
Lo que he aprendido es a que nunca se termina de aprender, y lo que más deseo hacer al regresar es ponerme al servicio de quienes más lo necesiten.
Because you meet so many people from different cultures, different traditions, and all these people bring in their culture, their experiences. So I learned a lot.
I think that was a very good introduction to some of the work that's taken place. Very brief, I could have listened for many more minutes, Father Hans. It's now my great pleasure to introduce today's speakers. First, Father Nuno da Silva Gonzalez, a Jesuit priest from Portugal, who's been rector of the university since 2016. Father Rector, this is a brave initiative by the Pontifical Gregorian University. Many institutions of higher learning would prefer to separate themselves from such painful studies and enterprises. Thank you for your leadership and support for the new institute. Would you like to address the audience today? Please, can you speak from here?
Eminenza Reverendissima, Cardinale Giuseppe Versaldi, Prefetto della Congregazione per l'Educazione Cattolica e Gran Cancelliere della Pontificia Università Gregoriana, Reverendo Padre Arturo Sosa, Superiore Generale della Compagnia di Gesù, caro Padre Hans Zoner, Preside dell'Istituto di Antropologia, Studi interdisciplinari sulla dignità umana e sulla cura delle persone vulnerabili. dear Baroness Hollins, dear professors, dear students, ladies and gentlemen. As you know, in Italy, and particularly in Rome, we have two different university systems, the Italian and the ecclesiastical, operating under the authority of the Holy See. The Holy See system, although smaller, has a long tradition in research, teaching, and community service. Both systems have their own characteristics that may not always make mutual knowledge and collaboration easy. For some time, however, there has been a greater willingness to share know-how and collaborate in joint projects. An example of such willingness is the agreement between the Regional Coordination Committee of the Universities of Lazio and the Conference of Rectors of Roman Pontifical Universities and Institutions. On the occasion of the renewal of this agreement, in the video message of last June 28th, the Italian Minister of University and Research encouraged us to continue on this path. I may add that tomorrow I will sign a memorandum of understanding between Sapienza University of Rome and the Gregorian University. The ecclesiastical university system in Rome has, as one of its special characteristics, a marked internationality both in faculty and in student body. In the case of the Gregorian, we have students from around 120 countries, of which the Italian students represent 30% of our student body. When our non-Italian students return to their countries, they carry with them, together with a specific formation, the knowledge of the Italian language and the appreciation of Italian culture. On this occasion, allow me also to mention the question of the recognition in Italy of the academic degrees conferred by the pontifical universities by authority of the Holy See. I hope that the negotiations between Italy and the Holy See in the framework of the Bologna process and the Lisbon Convention can be concluded within a short period of time. And I hope as well that the conclusion of these negotiations will lead to a definition of clear and simplified means for the recognition of all canonical academic degrees. Our students, especially those from Italy, will be the grateful beneficiaries of this full recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we are gathered here today to celebrate the creation of a new academic unit, the Institute of Anthropology, Interdisciplinary Studies on Human Dignity and Care. On April 15, the Congregation for Catholic Education approved the statutes of the new institute as a transformation of the Center for Child Protection, the CCP. This transformation creates a new institutional framework for the work the CCP has done so far. Within this institutional framework, the Institute will be able to have its own faculty and award, in addition to the diploma, the academic degrees of licentiate in safeguarding and doctorate in anthropology. The new Institute of Anthropology has begun its activities on the 1st of September, managing all activities previously entrusted to the Center for Child Protection. With this transformation, the Pontifical Gregorian University reiterates and intensifies its commitment to the work of protecting minors and vulnerable people and to the creation of safe environments which promote respect for human dignity. We hope as well to deepen the interdisciplinary dimension of education and research, fundamental to addressing issues surrounding abuse and its prevention. This is the specific way the Gregorian University can help the Church and its institutions to be in the front line of the fight against all kinds of abuses, especially sexual and spiritual. In this area, where the promotion of human dignity is at stake, the Gregorian University stands ready to do all that we can to contribute to healing the wounds of the past and to building a society based on mutual respect and care. I would like to thank Father Hans Zollner, the professors and the staff of the new institute, and I wish them the best of luck in their work. I would also acknowledge and thank the many donors and partners who, with their generosity, make the Institute's daily work possible. They deserve recognition for their contribution in a moment of transformation that represents a new beginning. These donors are today here represented by Father Michael McFarland, President of the Gregorian University Foundation, and their delegation as they visit Rome this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father Rector. Father Arturo Souza Abascal is from Venezuela, and he was elected the 31st Superior General of the Society of Jesus in 2016. And it's wonderful that the Jesuits are taking a lead on this topic. So over to you, Father General.
Dear friends, 5 years ago, the 36th General Congregation of the Society of Jesus asked, I quote, Father General, to continue working with major superiors and conferences to promote within the communities and ministries of the Society a consistent culture of protection and safety for minors, in keeping with the suggestion of the congregation regarding formation, community life, ministries, and governance. Until here, the General Congregation. A petition that, on the one hand, recognized the existence and seriousness of a situation in which minors lack protection throughout the world, and on the other hand, points out the need to address the causes that lead to it. The Society of Jesus, as a universal apostolic body, thereby commits itself to work for a consistent culture of protection and safety for minors and vulnerable people. This commitment is in keeping with and a consequence of the mission of reconciliation and justice to which the Society of Jesus feels called and sent. Pope Francis confirmed this mission when he approved the Universal Apostolic Preferences 2019-2092. In these preferences, we declare that, and I quote, we commit ourselves to help eliminate abuses inside and outside the Church, seeking to ensure that victims are heard and properly helped, that justice is done, and that harm is healed. This commitment includes the adoption of clear policies for the prevention of abuse, the ongoing formation of those who are committed to mission and serious efforts to identify the social origins of abuse. In this way, we effectively promote a culture that safeguards all vulnerable persons, especially minors. Awareness and recognition of the serious situation of vulnerability and abuse in society varies from place to place where the society is present and even within its communities and apostolic works. Therefore, the first step in the program for promotion a consistent culture of protection, coordinated by Father John Gainey with the great support of Doctors Michelle Hennessy and Tina Campbell, has been in use the AAA model: awakening, awareness, and action, that has been underpinned the design, analysis, and interpretation of the current situation in the society. To first unify a collaborative mission based on Jesuit Ignatian spirituality that is aligned to the universal apostolic preferences. Second, to actively listen to the stories of victims, survivors, and alleged perpetrators to understand their experiences of abuse and accompany them on their path to justice and healing. Third, to strengthen structures for effective implementation of policies and procedures that are supported by adequate allocation of human and financial resources. Fourth, to customize good practices, guidelines, tools, and resources, have clear policies, procedures, and training materials. Fifth, to provide quality training for Jesuits and lay companions in mission to create healthy and safe environments by raising awarenesses on the seriousness of issues and increasing knowledge of policies and guidelines, case management, and training and formation to create a consistent culture of protection. And finally, six, to develop a strategy for monitoring and evaluating the practice of ongoing implementation that promotes progressive action for compliance to commitment. The response of the Jesuit apostolic body has been quite positive. In 5 years, we have learned not to turn a blind eye to cases of abuses, to recognize the magnitude of this scourge, to put in place the means to care for those involved and to establish policies of prevention. A systematic effort has been made to put in place 3 basic elements for the safeguarding of vulnerable people in all areas of Jesuit life and mission. These are, first, policy and guidelines for ethical behavior and safe environments. Second, protocol for dealing with allegations and case management. And third, training and formation for Jesuits and partners in mission. But we are not complacent. We are becoming more aware of the complexity of what we call the vulnerability of individuals and peoples. We are only just glimpsing the long march needed to ensure the dignity of every human person through a consistent culture of care of all human beings, their social relationship, and their environment. In most countries, and within the Catholic Church, legal regulations have been improved, and attempts have been made to provide more effective ways for dealing with cases, at the same time trying to stop them proliferating. But we are still a long way from ensuring safe environments in the areas for which we are responsible, and even further from helping to prevent the abuses that arise from unjust social structures that themselves exploit and create endemic situations of abuse through various forms of daily violence, wars, forced migrations, human trafficking. We cannot be complacent. putting the victims of abuse at the center, learning to listen to them, giving credit to their experience, accompanying their pain, helping them to overcome and starting procedures for reparation has been a fundamental step. It has also led us to deal with the perpetrators, to get to know their needs for reparation and for the healing of their wounds. It has become clear that it's not enough to have good laws, rules, and protocols, and to administer them properly. Establishing wrongdoing and establishing proportionate sanctions is necessary, but insufficient to heal individuals, to transform the social relations in which wrongdoing originates, and to sustain a culture in which the dignity of all people is respected. We cannot be complacent. A consistent culture of protection from the dignity of vulnerable persons that creates safe environments for all, especially minors, finds its unique and authentic source in the merciful love of the one and true God. Human beings are created free and capable of love. The Lord called them to exercise their freedom by following the path of giving their own life out of love, so that many may have life in abundance. It is the way opened by the Passover of Jesus that we are not only invited to follow, but enabled to do so, because he has given us his Spirit. By making the journey, the community of Jesus' followers is being built up and shows every human being the way to reconciliation and justice. The experience we have gained leads us to be grateful for the stages of the road traveled and make us aware of the long journey ahead of us if we want to reach the goal of human relations with cultures capable of guaranteeing a safe environment for the development of a decent life for all people. The protection and security of vulnerable people is the yardstick by which we can measure how close we are to the goal of the reconciliation of all things in Christ. In various parts of the world, the procedures of restorative justice are being employed more frequently, making it possible to go beyond the familiar limits of administrative or criminal procedures, whether civil or canonical. The procedures of restorative justice open up the possibility of reconciliation between victim and offender, and can even produce the healing experience of forgiveness. In the procedures of restorative justice, the participation of other people is needed to accompany the difficult journey that those involved must take into the depth of their own life, in their history and human relationships. They are procedures that rebuild human relationships, opening them up to the newness of fraternity and social friendship. The courage being shown by some sector of the Catholic Church to uncover such painful realities as those experienced in various parts of the world, and to provide the means to confront them openly, ought to help us to venture onto a new path that will lead to the real healing of people, communities, and institutions through reconciliation. In a consistent culture of protection and security for vulnerable people, justice as a step towards reconciliation and forgiveness clearly needs to be guaranteed. Challenges such as this, or those posed by the anthropological changes caused by the complex digital world, are the focus of the Institutes of Anthropology of the Gregorian University. The Gregorian University has an international vocation that stimulates the global vision of the Institute. In it, richly varied cultures interact on a daily basis. This is an encouraging context for the intercultural and interdisciplinary approach to research and training that the Institute proposes. The aim is to contribute to the care of people, their natural environment, and the social conditions required for a decent life. The objectives set by the Institute of Anthropology are the result of previous experience and are unattainable by just one institution alone. We have come this far thanks to the generous contribution of many people and institutions to whom we are sincerely grateful for their confidence in accompanying the travelers who are making the road as they go along. In the same way as the objective of the recent institute has grown in complexity and breadth, so to its capacity to cooperate with the numerous other people and institutions' commitment to making the future a place for a decent life full of hope will have to grow. To implement the mandate of the 36th General Congregation and to incarnate the spirit of universal apostolic preferences in the life mission of the Society of Jesus, we are counting on the Institute of Anthropology. Cooperation as our way of proceeding is the present in order to move towards a better future, lead us to count one another to become better servants of a reconciling mission of Jesus Christ. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Father General, and for reminding us that we cannot be complacent and for the importance of safe environments. I mean, part of what you're saying really is that we have to recognize that abuse is always an abuse of power, and not understanding that puts people at risk. Instead of safe environments, it allows for vulnerable environments to be created or to thrive. And that's the challenge. It's a big challenge. His Eminence Cardinal Bersaldi has been prefect of the Congregation for Catholic Education since he was appointed by Pope Francis in 2015, and he's Grand Chancellor of the Pontifical Gregorian University. Your Eminence.
Thank you very much. My heartfelt greetings to all here present, particularly to the Superior General of Jesuits, Father Arturo Sosa, Vice Chancellor of this university, Rector, Father Nuno da Silva, Father Hans Zollner, new president of this institute, to all the other speakers, to the ambassadors, to the teachers and students, and to all the guests whose presence today is most welcome. The title of my intervention could be the following: A shared holistic anthropology as a prerequisite for church-state dialogue in defense of vulnerable individuals. On 12 September 2019, Pope Francis launched the idea of a global educational alliance for all those, he said, who in various ways and on every level work in the field of education and of research. He also appealed to authoritative public figures in our world who are concerned for the future of our young people. Pope's reasons for this proposal is rooted in the belief expressed in his encyclical Laudato Si that, he says, all change requires an educational process aimed at developing a new universal solidarity and a more welcoming society. To this end, the Pope added in his message, there is a need to create an educational village in which all people according to their respective roles, share the task of forming a network of open human relationships. The Pontiff emphasizes the same idea in the video message that is sent for meeting at the Pontifical Lateran University, organized by the Congregation for the Catholic Education. He wrote, "Education, as we know, is meant to be transformative. To educate is to take a risk and to hold out to the present a hope that can shatter the determinism and fatalism that the selfishness of the strong, the conformism of the weak, and the ideology of the utopians could convince us is the only way forward." This is the context for the relations the Church with her educational institutions at whatever level enters into with all other educational organizations, whether public or private. These relations open up a dialogue that, while recognizing the two parties' differences, allows the agreement both as regards the goals of education and as regards the means to achieve those goals. However, it is at this point that a problem arises. How it can be possible to reach this agreement in such a complex and pluralistic world in which differences often become source of conflict, being damaging instead of enriching. And so we see here how important is the Institute of Anthropology that we are inaugurating today in this Pontifical Gregorian University. In fact, it is only by researching and discovering a shared basic view of human nature that dialogue among various institutions is made possible. It is to be hoped that an institute that favors interdisciplinary studies of human dignity and on the care of vulnerable individuals can become a reference point for any global educational alliance that is not limited to pleasing declaration of intent, but rather is translated into action. The only way to establish this shared anthropological basis in the midst of such varying points of view is to know how to make good use of our most noble and collective characteristics, that is, human reason. It is by means of reason that the human person seeks and discovers the meaning of reality, starting from his or her own being. Reason distinguishes humans from other creatures and makes them the pinnacle of the reality in which they live. And within that reality, they can ever more comprehend what is true, good, and beautiful. Through correct use of reason, people are called to form a world of justice and solidarity, enabling through scientific and human progress for all creatures. The various sciences by means of which human reason studies reality become instruments for this progress as long as they are open to each other in an interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary dialogue, which allows them to give ever more complete answers to the question posed by the human heart and mind. The fruit of such dialogue is the creation of a holistic anthropology, that is to say, a view of reality in which all its aspects are harmonized so as to arrive step by step at the fullness of truth. In this way, cultural differences and even religious differences do not become obstacles. This is because each perspective, while remaining open to the input of other points of view, can make its own contribution and be enriched by that of the others, while prevents the danger of fences and boundaries in the search of truth. However, the use of reason is clearly not enough to arrive at such favorable results. At all times, including in our own days, precisely in the name of reason, and sometimes also in the name of religion, there arise injustice, discrimination, and harmful conflict. Pope Francis, when he called for the Global Educational Alliance, affirmed, "We need to find other ways based on a sound anthropology of envisioning economics, politics, growth, and progress." This is clearly a global radical change from the present situation, which, as the Pope reminds us in the video message I mentioned, is dominated by, he said, an individualistic culture that at times degenerates into a true cult of self and the primacy of indifference. Therefore, there needs to be a conversion that also affects our rational level, as was suggested by a famous academic in the field of anthropology and epistemology, Bernard Lonergan, who once taught here in these lecture halls. Lonergan asserted that for us to achieve a proper dialogue among the various sciences, we need to adopt a method which he called transcendental, that can form a common basis in our search for truth, and yet which respects the differences among the various sciences. For us to achieve that possibility, however, Lonergan saw the need for a threefold conversion of human reason: intellectual conversion, moral conversion, and religious conversion. By means of intellectual conversion, according to Lonergan, humanity conquers the myth which says that reality is limited to what can be observed and measured. On the contrary, he said, knowing is not merely be observable and measurable, but it is also to experience, understand, judge, and believe. That is to say, it understands the world of meanings. Moral conversion is at the basis of our decision-making criteria, so that the decisions are not made in accordance with the personal satisfaction, but rather by using the standard of objective and universal values. Moral conversion, he says, consists in opting for what is truly good, and therefore for the value against the satisfaction when value and satisfaction are in conflict. Finally, according to the Lonergan, for religious conversion means the possibility for human reason to be open to what which transcends it and pass from the relative good to the absolute good, discovering a truth that lovingly attracts humanity. Religious conversion is the conversion to a total following love as the effective foundation of all self-transcendence. in the search for the truth, in the putting into practice of human values, and in the way we address the universe, its foundation, and its aim. By this process of threefold conversion, human reason can discover the fundamental values, both objective and universal, of one's own good as well as the of common good. The same is also true on the level of institution, where each institution's identity and competences must be respected, while the institution itself exists side by side with other institutions in the same social reality. In this sense, church and state, after all the fluctuation over time, have found the right balance in their relationship, allowing them to operate in concert to realize the common good while remaining distinct in their respective fields and means. And it should not be a problem that the Church, by her nature, makes use of faith in addition to reason, so as to assert the values that she shares also on the rational level. In fact, the dialogue between faith and reason is not to the detriment to either. Rather, by means of such a dialogue, there is a mutual enrichment so as to arrive at knowledge of the whole truth. The Apostolic Constitution Ex Corde Ecclesiae entrusts Catholic universities with the task of uniting existentially by intellectual effort two orders of reality that too frequently tend to be placed in opposition, as if they were antithetical: the search for truth and the certainty of already knowing the fount of truth. That means that faith enlightens reason without in any way diminishing it. Rather, faith stimulates reason to search for those meanings that transcend the reality of experience, that is intellectual conversion, to provide answer to the most profound questions of the human spirit and mind, questions that the experimental sciences by themselves neither know nor are able to answer. On the contrary, a lack of dialogue between faith and reason, which St. John Paul II in his encyclical Fides et Ratio called faithful separation, has led to reciprocal harm. He wrote, deprived of what revelation offers, reason has taken side tracks which expose it to the danger of losing sight of its final goal. Deprived by reason, faith has stressed feeling and experience, and so ran the risk of no longer being a universal proposition. Therefore, we must re-establish a proper dialogue among the various aspects of human knowledge. For in this way, we offer institutions and individuals the most excellent patrimony of human knowledge, coming from whatever source, as long as it is verified in light of reason, which has, in its turn, been converted from possible misunderstanding. In this context, the Institute of Anthropology that we are inaugurating can become a meeting place to encourage dialogue not only among the various disciplines, but also among the various institutions. This goes in particular for the relationship between church and state, knowing how to give to God what is God's and to Caesar what is Caesar's, safeguarding both the independence of the church and the non-confessional nature of the state. All of what I have said is meant to be at the service of every human being's dignity, especially the dignity of those who are the most vulnerable. They have the great need of that global educational alliance which Pope Francis so desires, precisely because he is convinced that all educational institutions can converge on the value of human person as the essential starting point for any human society worthy of that name. I conclude. My hope and prayer is that this Institute of Anthropology can truly reach its goals and thus offer academics and students the support of its research and the results in defense of the fundamental values of human person and human life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those words of wisdom. I wrote down a few phrases which I thought were really very special. Knowing also includes experience. The human reason must be open to truth. Putting into practice human values. And then you said dialogue between faith and reason leads to mutual enrichment. I think that's a good point for us to move on to our next speaker. The research evidence matters, so it would have been fitting now to hear from Professor Maria Cristina Messa, Italian Minister for Universities and Research. The Minister is Professor of Imaging at the University of Milan Bicocca. Unfortunately, Professor Messa is unable to join us tonight, but she has sent her speech to us, and I'm going to read it to you. Honourable Dean, esteemed speakers, dear guests, let me first express my regret at not being able to be with you in physical presence for the inauguration of the Institute of Anthropology, Interdisciplinary Studies on Human Dignity and Care, a continuation and expansion of the work begun by the Centre for Child Protection. The mandated restrictions and social distancing experienced during the acute phases of the pandemic, in many cases, have amplified situations of vulnerability and relational dysfunctions, which often come to light too late when the damage done is irreparable. It is therefore a priority to intervene, preventing these phenomena and ensuring they are tackled from their root causes, first by recognizing them and addressing them with the help of networks of solidarity, acceptance, understanding, and vigilant attention. To work effectively on prevention, it is necessary to increase the level of social and cultural awareness, as well as that of special training. These are areas where universities, jointly with other institutions, can and must be operating with more conspicuous planning and a stronger and more incisive approach. These are the places where learners are educated to the dignity of human values before being trained as professionals. Universities can do a lot by ensuring that different sensibilities, visions, and professional know-how are brought together with the view of facing and solving a common problem, leveraging on the method that academia and research teach. The fact that this new institute has put in its name the term interdisciplinary studies is really important, because it is in the direction of interdisciplinary openness that the education model of the future must go. In your own definition, the new institute is interdisciplinary because only the collaboration of different disciplines can generate a truly productive dialogue aimed at responding to complex issues which touch on the concept of human dignity that cannot be parceled out into isolated knowledge domains. And it is intercultural, in a way that each culture can grow aware of its own peculiarities, which helps provide appropriate responses to specific issues and sensitive to its own context and communities. The pedagogical, anthropological approach that you have chosen for the new institute is also very important, as it is built on the participation of students who take up the proactive, awareness-driven role of agents for an urgently needed social change. Let me conclude by mentioning the important theme of patients' dignity and their need to feel worthy of esteem and consideration. This is a feeling that the vulnerability and dependence imposed by the disease or the abuse radically transforms and undermines. The individual healthcare provider-patient relationship significantly influences a patient's self-perception and shapes his or her experience, either in a positive or a negative way, thus determining the quality of healthcare received. That's why it is all the more necessary to design training that can best integrate medical education with skills related to the ability to see each patient as a whole person beyond and besides the cure. Such model for healthcare education reflects the meaning of the old French adage about the role of medicine, which is to sometimes heal, often relieve, always console, to which the decisive interdisciplinary contribution of sciences tend. Maria Cristina Messer, Minister for Universities and Research. So I think those are important words, and I'm glad that she emphasized the importance of listening to the person's own experience, something which other speakers have already addressed. Because without listening and really hearing and understanding, will change happen. Well, we're now going to have a musical interlude, and I'm going to invite our speakers to rejoin the audience so that we can listen. The musicians are members of the youth orchestra of the Accademia Nazionale di Santa Cecilia. They represent all young people in their music today, and they play to us to entrust our mission with hope. They will play Gabriel Zobo by Ennio Morricone, written for the film Mission. Can I now welcome our musicians? thank you so much, Tommaso, Vittoria, Marta, Chiara, Matteo. I think we would all like to listen to you for the rest of the evening. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to hear in a moment from Dr. Juan Carlos Cruz, who was born in Chile. He's a communications executive and global advocate for survivors of clerical abuse, and he was appointed a member of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors earlier this year. As a founder member of the Pontifical Commission myself, I remember his name being proposed several years ago. So it's a particular pleasure to welcome you here this evening, Juan Carlos, and to meet you in person for the first time, albeit by video link. Juan Carlos.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this important day where we inaugurate this institute. I want to commend and thank Father Hans Zollner and so many people that dreamt this. I'm sure it hasn't been an easy task, but I've seen already the fruits of what people who passed through are doing around the world. As a victim survivor, it's important to have people that have a strong formation in human dignity and who know how to treat survivors and understand survivors and work on safeguarding. Personally, as a Catholic, I am grateful for so many people that have been in my journey, and especially the Holy Father, who really made me feel like Lazarus. I'm a resurrected man after having had my life destroyed, but yet I am now someone who tries to be to solve this issue or help solve this issue from within the church. Now, every survivor is a world in his or her own, so everybody is going to react in different ways. But it's so important to have initiatives like this institute, where you will form so many people that will go around the world trying not only to solve the problem, but creating new safe places where people can be and hopefully eliminate the scourge of abuse and the culture of cover-up. I sincerely want to thank everybody who works in this. I've seen the fruits. I see how many men and women are going to be part of the solution that participate in this institute. I thank the Pontifical Gregorian University for believing in this and for taking the initiative and for being maybe a lighthouse that shows the world how this can be done. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to everybody who's worked in this, Father Hans, especially to you. And hopefully there will be many, many apostles of human dignity and care around the world that have been formed and have passed through your institute. Thank you very much, and look forward to seeing everybody and being there soon and seeing the fruits of this wonderful enterprise that you've embarked on. Thank you very much.
I think that was very powerful, and I think what Dr. Cruz points to is how survivors will be able to help with the healing that the Church so clearly needs. Now, could I invite the other speakers to come to the podium? Professor Caffo, Professor Fegert, Professor Zollner. Thank you. So Professor Ernesto Caffo is Emeritus Professor of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at the University of Modena and Reggio Emilia. He's the founder and president of Telefono Azzurra and a member of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. Professor Caffo, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
I'd like to thank you for this invitation, and I think that we heard today from the Superior General, from the Cardinal Versaldi, and from the Dean of this university, all the very important issue that we have to face now with this new challenge of the Institute of Anthropology. I know this process from a long time, because I know Hans for many years, and with Father Lombardi that I saw somewhere, we build a very important process in this Gregorian University for the International Conference Child Dignity in the Digital World that was held in October 2017, in which we invited all the academic people involved in the area of sexual abuse, in particular in the digital world, together to share ideas. We are people of different culture, different region, to understand better what can be the solution, if you like, to manage better the children's rights and the child protection strategy in the different parts of the world. One important issue that we discussed in this meeting was to have the person in the central point and the dignity of the person in the central point, in particular of the vulnerable person, in particular children and adolescents, with the interest to listen to them and to understand from them what is the sufferance to be victim. And the attention was to different forms of violence, and in particular, I think, in the future, the violence that we see in the digital world. That is a very important issue. The opening of the academic year is always a propitious occasion, not only to express hope for the immediate future, but also to reflect the direction that studies can take in the increasingly rapid development of the new educational needs in relation to technological evolution and the global dimension of the problems of reducing social inequalities and protecting human dignity in the various national contexts. I believe it is important to draw attention to the fact that the Pontifical Gregorian University is promoting the academic year with this institute in this academic year 2021-2022, level 1, 2, and 3 course on the protection, in terms of both safeguarding or prevention and reintegration or care of human dignity in different social and economical contexts and with respect to different types of fragility. This universalistic approach presupposes not only interdisciplinary but also transversality of knowledge and methods of study and intervention, as other speakers said before me. Dealing with abuse and violence against vulnerable people, especially children and adolescents, is a major scientific and cultural challenge that increasingly requires broad interdisciplinary cooperation with the international outlook. The coexistence of knowledge from various scientific and humanistic areas and advanced technology skills allow the development of a form of anthropology that is broader than the traditional one, that include philosophical, demographic, ethnological, physical, cultural competence, which can rightly be defined as cognitive, as it allows the non-systematic but organic and dynamic reconstruction of many areas of knowledge according to the problems and related objectives that must be addressed from time to time by future graduates and PhD. Among the challenges that need to be addressed with respect to the issue of vulnerable people is the one concerning the digital world, as indicated by the Holy Father at the 2019 conference promoting digital child dignity from concept to action that we held in the Academy of Science, Pontifical Academy of Science, with the participation of We Protect and Child Dignity Alliance and Interfaith Alliance. Child Dignity Alliance that represents an important part of our life because we work together into LEC to promote this common work, including different disciplines, different aspects of knowledge that we have to integrate, that I see in this very interesting project of the Institute. The Pope say it is not enough to understand, we must act. The moral condemnation of the harm inflicted of minors to the misuse of the new digital technology needs urgently to be translated into concrete initiative. The longer we wait, the more entrenched and insurmountable this evil becomes. The challenge before us, then, is to ensure that minors have safe access to these technologies, while at the same time ensuring their healthy and serene development and protecting them from unacceptable criminal violence or grave harm to the integrity of their body and spirit. It is in this perspective that I consider very important the collaboration of the university and the research group working in this field to find effective research model and consequent training paths for all those who work in contact with vulnerable people and with children and adolescents. Listening to the unexpressed need of vulnerable people today requires new attention to give dignity to their growth and protection in a perspective that is not only emergency, but also the construction of increasingly appropriate response to different cultures and diversities. It's very important that the world of secular and Catholic university can work together to build new knowledge for the new generations and to overcome the great surge of trauma and abuse that have involved and continue to involve our community, including religious communities. To conclude, I think the Institute of Eastern Anthropology of the Gregorian University should represent a very important point, a bridge between culture and institutions. I think in this case, the state had to play an important role, Italian government to play an important role, and we heard this from the word from the Minister Messa. And I think we have to have a beneficial effect to work together between Catholic and state university. And this institute can represent, should represent a meeting point between discipline, experience, and religious culture to be research activities, innovative training process. And this, for me, can be a very important point. And I thank all the people that give the opportunity to start this process. And I like to thank in particular Hans that has the energy to move on in this process. Thank you, Hans.
Thank you very much, Professor Caffo. I was just reflecting that you probably don't realise, but there are 3 professors of psychiatry up here at the moment. 2 are professors of child psychiatry. I used to be a child psychiatrist, but then I'm an emeritus professor of psychiatry of intellectual disability. I wonder, well, I did speak about mental health during this university's 2012 symposium, Towards Healing. The renowned Irish survivor, Maury Collins, and I shared the platform to address the representatives of bishops' conferences from around the world. And the first iteration of the Centre for Child Protection began on that day in collaboration with Professor Fegert, who is the founder and medical director of the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at the University of Ulm Medical Center in Germany, and a board member of the European Society for Child and Adolescent Psychiatry. Professor Fegert.
Thank you very much, Baroness Hollins, for your kind introduction. Eminences, Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it has been about 10 years since the signing of that contract for the foundation of the Center of Child Protection of the Pontifical Gregorian University among our Center of Child Protection and Trauma Research at the University of Ulm, the Archdiocese of Munich, and the Pontifical Gregorian University. And this was a new endeavor to bring together a state-run university, research-oriented, clinically oriented, together with the Gregorian University, just to pioneer in an e-learning project that took the topic of safeguarding to different continents. And at the end of the project phase, the Institute moved to Rome and developed very well as an integral part of the Gregorian. So from a project, it began to become an institution. And that's very important for child protection, not to be in projects, but to be a thing that lasts and is there for all the time. It is such a pleasure for me to be present today as one of the former co-founders during the next step of a broader anchoring in teaching and research, and to congratulate you and the university on the foundation of that new Institute of Anthropology. The corona pandemic all over led to a complete change in the acceptance of in-depth educational offerings in the field of child protection. Within the first 6 months of the lockdown, over 50,000 people had enrolled in German-speaking countries in our courses on safeguarding, child protection, and care for traumatized persons. More than 40,000 now earned continuing medical education certificates for 40 up to 60 points with exams. Such numbers were unthinkable for us when we started. This boost in acceptance should also be used by the new institute to dedicate itself broadly to dissemination all over the world. The newly founded Institute of Anthropology now offers the possibilities and opportunities of an institute with the right to award doctorates and independent research development opportunities. And I hope that you will know how to use them in the coming years for the good of the students and our scientific community. For a better international visibility, you will need research results published in high-ranking international journals, and you will need research grants from outside and inside the Church. As an academic institution, the new institute should not only be a service structure, but an international player in the scientific world. At the same time, your dissemination and service experience can be used for research purposes as well, on change processes in institutions, because this is exemplary. In Germany, I have been asked very critically the following questions. Will child protection at the Gregorian now be hidden behind general humanity? And if child protection disappears from the title, does this mean a different prioritization? The Secretary General of the United Nations announced after the Millennium Goals, Sustainable Development Goals until 2030, and I see your badge, for a global community, and spoke of a roadmap towards a decent life in dignity. For everybody on earth, the road to dignity. Child protection and concepts of protection in institutions to which people are entrusted are central topics for all of us in the world. Within these topics, a great deal can be learned about the conditio humana. Growing up free of violence for children and adolescents was explicitly defined as a sustainability goal of the world community. Explicitly, Goal 16.2 is to end abuse, exploitation, trafficking, and all forms of violence and torture against children. Too often, in the political debate concerning the sustainability goals in the area of environment and economic development, it is forgotten for whom sustainability policy is being made, namely for the future generations, for children. According to Goal 16, sustainability also includes justice in societies and organizations and the participation of both people. The legal handling of sexual abuse cases in both secular and canonic law teaches us that the tortuous path of these proceedings, the lack of participation of those affected, increases the damage done by the act, as Karl Kraus once said. Father General Sosa reminded us our deeply human longing for restorative justice. For many of the victims is an immediate wish of justice, a subversive one, as we can find it in the Old Testament or in the text of the Magnificat, when it said, "He exercises violence with his arm and scatters those who are arrogant in their hearts. He pushes the mighty from their seats and lifts up the lonely. He fills the hungry with goods and leaves the rich empty." At the same time, necessary legal principles, such as the principle of doubt in criminal proceedings, in dubio pro reo, mean that those affected have to bear the suffering associated with the principle of doubt, which is indispensable for the rule of law. What role do we health professionals, 3 of us are sitting here, you mentioned it, play here, for instance, in the psychotherapy of victims and of perpetrators? We have also to take care of the perpetrators. Or as experts with loyalties and conflicts of interest, for example, with the commissioning institution. Many of these questions have not been addressed yet, and despite the repeated denunciation of the duration and procedural limitations, our regulations and procedures remain a permanent challenge. In canonical proceedings in which there are no rights to information and participation for those affected, even after the most recent reforms, and the new report of the French Commission points it out as well, that we need participation rights for the victims in all these proceedings. Prevention and protection in institutions cannot generally be brought about by a general code of conduct or a general safeguarding concept. In prevention science, we know that at the base rate, the number, the basic frequency in a certain population of the risk of occurrence is essential for the description of the relative risk, and that we have to base our concept on this frequency. That's the Bayes theorem, but I don't want to bore you with statistics during this ceremony. But what does it tell us when, in relation to the total population, the number of priests in Germany can not be depicted on a pie chart because it's so narrow, it's a small, small number. But if I draw the same figure on a dark field survey, the number of acts alleged committed by priests makes a perceptible part of the pie with about 6 to 8%. So we have an increased risk in priests for abuse, and we have to address this in a specific way. Or we have a high proportion of sexually abused children in institutions who care for children, because we place them there because they lived through sexual abuse, and they have an increased risk to have new cases of abuse in these institutions. So the safeguarding concept for a kindergarten has to be completely different for the kindergarten and for an institution like that. So I think there is a lot of research to be done, and the suffering of the victims not only comes from the criminal acts of the perpetrators, but also from well-intended but insufficient concepts, insufficient help, and insufficient treatment offers, or from the practice of law. Stigmatization and discrimination of victims and their right to participate are important issues, also for research, for teaching. Victims, perpetrators, bystanders, institutions. This is what the Institute of Anthropology will deal with in the future from a Christian perspective. From Ulm, where we deal intensively with questions of child protection, with questions of prevention, psychological suffering, with trauma research, please accept my sincere congratulations on the establishment of this institute, combined with the hope that we will continue to be in close exchange in different areas of research and also in the area of dissemination of knowledge. I hope that in the new institute, our anthropological limitations will be reflected as well. Coping with our daily failure in the struggle for justice in human institutions and our difficult battle for life in dignity for everybody are big challenges. The Archangel Michael is often depicted with a judgment sword like in the Bronx sculpture here in Castel Sant'Angelo. As an angel of judgment and a standard bearer, he carries the challenge of his name on his banner, Quis ut Deus, who is like God. When interpreting Psalm 101, Misericordia et judicium cantabo tibi Domine, Augustine explained that only God is able to unite justice and mercy. And I think to remind us that our striving for justice is always limited and oftentimes not enough for the victims, should engage us in more research, but also in an interdisciplinary dialogue between religious people and worldly science. Congratulations, auguri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for highlighting some of the important areas for research. We were talking earlier about the importance of both qualitative research to really understand what questions needed to be studied in more detail, and quantitative research. And it reminds me that some time ago, Father Hans, we were involved in a colloquium, a research colloquium at the University of Durham, trying to identify priorities for research. Perhaps the new institute will want to repeat that colloquium and refresh the priorities. There are many people here today who've played a part in enabling the Institute to come to fruition, including some of today's speakers. But there are also others whose contributions have made contributions along the way, but who are not present. It's no time to mention them, but their contributions are not forgotten, and the Institute is stronger because of the foundations that everybody has played. Father Hans Zollner needs little introduction as the president of the new Institute. He's been the innovator, the driving force, the person with a conviction who's coordinated and made this happen by dint of extraordinary hard work and perseverance. Father Zollner is also a full professor of psychology in the Institute of Psychology and has been a member of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors since 2014. Congratulations, Father Hans. Over to you to have the final word.
Thank you very much, and good evening to you all. Thank you for being here today. Let me first thank Father General Sosa and Father Rector Gonçalves, Cardinal Versaldi, the words of Professor Messa, the Minister, Dr. Cruz, and Professors Caffo and Fegert for your encouraging and challenging words and your support. Your presence here today is confirmation of your commitment to safeguarding and is proof of your ongoing trust and faith in who we are and what we do. I'd like to thank all students, the competent office team, and the dedicated faculty of the IADC, fellow academics, and our generous donors who are represented today by a group from the Gregorian University Foundation and by a delegation from Porticus. We have reached yet another milestone, nearly 10 years after we set out to create educational programs that would help to make the church and world safer for children. As Professor Fegert said, in academics, and all the more when it comes to dealing with abuse and its cover-up, it's very difficult to move from project phase to establishing a structure for sustainable commitment. Today, we can say with elation that our project didn't end with just one online safeguarding program, but it grew into academic degrees offered right here at the Pontifical Gregorian University. We are grateful to you, Cardinal Versaldi, to Father Rector, and to Father Delegate for their respective approval and support in this. Just a few months ago, we celebrated the conclusion of the first ever Spanish diploma in safeguarding, and at the same time marked the 6th anniversary of the English diploma in safeguarding. We have sent out over 140 of our graduates into the world, wherever they were called to work in their communities and their missions. They are putting into practice the skills and knowledge that they have learned during their time here at the Gregorian. We all have something to learn from them, to be steadfast in our dedication to such an important mission, even in the face of institutional pushback and individual resistance. Today, as the IADC, the Institute of Anthropology, Interdisciplinary Studies on Human Dignity and Care, we take the next step on this journey of striving to make the world a safer place through our academic and educational endeavors. The name of our new institute contains 3 key words, which are more than words. They are principles. The first of these is anthropology. It is a field that attempts to understand what it is that makes us human. It seems as though many in today's world have forgotten what it means to be human, in our belonging, our suffering, our dependency on one another. Alongside psychologists, theologians, canon lawyers, philosophers, social and pedagogical scientists, and other academic professionals, we will be able to deepen our understanding of how these crippling wounds came about, how we can work together to root out abuse in its many forms, and what we need to do that the Church and other organizations don't deny the reality of this scourge and change in their institutional and systemic makeup and action. The new name also refers to the vital importance that all humans deserve to be treated with dignity. Women, men, old and young. It happens far too often that we disregard the reality that we are all born with this inherent dignity given to each and every human by the hands of God. It is our hope that the Institute's very name may serve us as a reminder that we all deserve to be treated with dignity and that our work embodies this principle. Thirdly, the Institute seeks to prioritize the care of all human persons, especially children and the most vulnerable and marginalized of our societies. We can no longer accept excuses for not listening to victims, for ignoring their suffering, and we need to work for the care of children and vulnerable adults alike. That is the heart of our work. This institute belongs to a greater movement of change in the world that goes beyond simply acknowledging what has gone on, oftentimes right underneath our noses. While we will never be able to eradicate completely abuse from this world, we can certainly take concrete steps to preventing abuse, to intervening in abusive situations, and to promote the conversation on how the Church, bishops and laity, all of us, can approach this urgent issue. We ask you for your watchful eye where there is injustice and for your support to be unwavering as we continue to affront these deep-seated problems. all of us at the IADC, the office team, the faculty, the students, could not have achieved all that we have over the years without your friendship, trust, and financial and other support for our mission. All of us here are witnesses to these convictions. Thank you so much. May the Lord bless you all, and may He bless our Safeguarding Institute. Thank you.
Well, I think that draws our inauguration to an end. So thank you all for your attentiveness and for being here and for your support.